For one thing, I'm not Asgardian. And for another, we have a Hulk.
Hello and welcome to the Combat Meter. So due to a request from one of you, I'm actually going to be doing a series of fights here. Our friends over at RefTunes, check them out, they've got some awesome stuff going on there, said that they really wanted to see a breakdown of the Avengers versus Thanos. Apparently in their minds, that fight just never really went the way it should have, and we're going to see if that's true or not. There is a small problem, and that is that Thanos actually faces off against the Avengers in a series of rounds. So we're going to look at each one of those individual confrontations and see if they add up the way that they should have. We're going to take a lot of factors into play and see how this ultimately works out. First things first, we're going to do round one, which was simply Thanos versus the Incredible Hulk. I was originally going to do this as a massive thing, Thanos versus Loki, Thor, Heimdall, the Hulk, a bunch of Asgardians. The problem is when we come into this fight, Thor, Heimdall, and Loki are already defeated. That being said, we didn't see that battle. We don't know what happened. We don't know if Thanos defeated them all on his own. Considering the Black Order is there, odds are that they probably helped in that fight. So it wouldn't be good to speculate on that. Because there's so many factors being taken into place there, we can't assume that we have any idea how that battle might have gone. So we're simply going to have to do this as Thanos versus the Incredible Hulk, because that's the only fight we actually get to see. Of course, we'll put the link here if you want to check out how the combat meter works and how the point system gets divvied out. That being said, let's kick it off. The first category we're going to look at is strength. So theoretically, the Incredible Hulk from the comic books has limitless strength. Now, to be true to the meter, we always want to demonstrate each category as they are presented in their respective universes. And in the MCU, does the Hulk have limitless strength? Well, the answer is we don't know. It's actually really hard to say because we may have never actually seen the Incredible Hulk at his physical peak. Sometimes he seems very, very strong. Other times, not as strong. There doesn't seem to be anything that he's ever tried to lift that he couldn't, though in some instances, he does seem to struggle to lift those things. Turning to our good friends over at Comic Books versus the World, we discover that the highest strength feat that he's ever accomplished in terms of pure lifting power was 325 tons when he body slammed a wolf. Links in the description below if you want to see that video. That being said, it's possible that his strength is limitless, and this idea of him getting angrier to get stronger, that does seem to hold up throughout the series, although it's hard to say if anger is actually the thing that his strength is triggered to, as it does seem that in the original movie with Ed Norton, he's more concerned about keeping his heart rate low, thus suggesting that his heart rate has something to do with, at the very least, triggering the Hulk to come out, though it may not have any direct impact on the level of strength that he has. Based on the meter's cutoff point, he is well over the 35 tons necessary to have superhuman strength, and it's safe to say that he can keep that up over and over again without getting any weaker. So we'll give him a solid 5.5 points for having sustained superhuman strength. Now, as far as Thanos is concerned, the question comes up, is Thanos physically stronger than the Incredible Hulk? And there's a lot of arguments to be made in either direction, though I can't help but side with what I thought was the best argument. That was brought up by our guys at Key Issues, a link in the description. In that video, they described Thanos' power, and they give a lot of demonstrations that indicate he is actually physically stronger than the Hulk. The biggest one being this moment right here, where he actually pulls the Hulk's hands away as the Hulk struggles against him. This does seem to imply that the Hulk can't overpower Thanos' physical strength. Here's the strange thing though. As far as all of the physical strength feats that Thanos performs, that one seems to be the highest. It's hard, if not impossible, to actually find a physical feat strength that you can measure on Thanos. So the best thing that you can do is give him a comparison strength. Do we have any indication that he has limitless strength? No, there does seem to be a limit to his physical power, but that limit seems to be above the Hulk's, meaning he's going to get a slight edge and get a 5.75 for his strength. Alright, let's talk about speed. So the Incredible Hulk is known for his raw strength, but one of the things he's not as well known for is his amazing speed. This is most prevalent actually in his fight with the Abomination. When running at each other to open this fight, a shockwave is given off, meaning that on their impact the sound barrier was broken. Now it does look like the Abomination was the one who broke the sound barrier on this. What's fascinating about that is at the very end of the fight, the Abomination is here twirling a chain around while the Incredible Hulk gets up, says his catchphrase, and smashes the ground all in the blink of an eye. Also, just beforehand, he clapped his hands so fast and hard together that he created a shockwave that blew enough air to actually blow out a chemical fire. I don't know how you can do that and have the people standing there actually stay alive, but I digress. So the Hulk definitely demonstrates the ability to break the sound barrier. However, he doesn't really do this consistently. He moves through great speeds, running and jumping especially. He leaps tremendous distances very fast. And a lot of that has to do with his actual physical strength being able to launch him at such great distances. So while it seems clear that the Incredible Hulk is able to perform feats that break the sound barrier, he's not consistently breaking the sound barrier, which means we'll give him 5 points for having superhuman speed. Thanos seems to be right there with him. This is an interesting thing because Thanos in and of himself does not seem to perform that many speed feats. You do get to see a few, and you see him moving from one place to another pretty quick. How quick? Quickly enough to actually say that he consistently moves as fast as the Incredible Hulk consistently moves. You also see one or two instances where the sound barrier gets broken by Thanos as well, but again, not on a consistent basis. So he'll tie out and get 5 points for his speed. Agility is a funny thing when it comes to the Incredible Hulk. You don't generally think about something that big and massive and hulking as also being graceful, but he can move. In the Battle of New York, he's jumping around between buildings so quick it's remarkable. He changes direction and launches himself to the other end of the battlefield before any of the enemies can respond to him. Also, he has really keen reflexes and hand-eye coordination, sometimes going so far as to take a swing at things that he's not even looking at, meaning that his sensory perception is high enough to make him even more agile yet. With agility so good, he can easily dodge bullets. Problem is, don't know that his eyesight is good enough to see them coming. Plus, he sort of has a Superman issue going on, where the bullets don't do enough damage to slow him down, though they do hurt. Thanos' agility is demonstrated in two major ways. One is his ability to deflect incoming attacks, particularly energy attacks, which are coming extremely fast. I know there's a lot of arguments for energy coming at the speed of light. Well, that's not really accurate. For argument's sake, if you can see it happening on screen, it's not coming at the speed of light. That doesn't mean it isn't coming fast, but it's certainly not the speed of light, not even really the speed of sound. If you can see a beam travel, it's moving slower than a bullet. Now, a lot of that has to do with the limits of perception when watching a movie. Certainly the filmmakers can't make everything move at true-to-light speeds. But I don't think you need to go that far, because one thing that Thanos consistently cannot dodge is lightning. That is the lightning summoned by Thor, and then later the lightning summoned by Captain America. In both instances, he cannot dodge it and get out of the way, even if he sees it coming. So it's clear that he is not that fast. However, the second area that he demonstrates his agility is of greater interest to me, and that is in his actual fight with the Incredible Hulk. In this fight, he demonstrates an ability to easily slip, move, and be agile enough to get out of the Incredible Hulk's way, who we already know is fast enough to break the sound barrier. So, with agility like that, he's going to have to factor a little bit higher. So is he able to dodge lasers? No. Is he able to dodge the Hulk? Yeah. So that'll give him 5.75 points. When it comes to intelligence, the Incredible Hulk is kind of lacking. His level of intelligence does increase as the movies go on, but at this stage, the Incredible Hulk has essentially a toddler's level of reasoning.
Don't kick stuff! You bad friend!
What are you, crazy?
Yes!
He does demonstrate that he can learn and get better, and even has a bit of a sinister sense of humor.
Look like raging fire. Do I like smoldering fire?
Which does suggest an underlying intelligence, but he's still lacking the intelligence of the average adult human, giving him 0.7 points. Thanos, on the other hand, has been around for a long time. It seems that he's been in control of his military force for roughly 1,000 years, which means he's old and he's had a lot of time to learn. Plus, in order to keep an empire for that long that's ever expanding, you have got to be really, really smart. How smart?
You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
Well, certainly smarter than a human. There's no indication that he has the ability to have whole world knowledge in and of itself. He can't know everything there is to know about a world, but he certainly knows more than a human being could know. And because his advanced age hasn't slowed him down one bit, it does suggest that he can sustain that intelligence. He doesn't seem to indicate that he's really ever forgotten anything. Therefore, we can easily give him 4.5 points for sustained enhanced intelligence. Alright, so when it comes to the healing factor, the Incredible Hulk heals really, really fast. To the point where it's almost confusing, because it seems that even being suicidal, if Bruce Banner dies, the Incredible Hulk takes over and Bruce Banner is fully healed and recovered the next time. We do see that using the gauntlet later to make the snap made the Incredible Hulk have an injury that he sustained, but it does look like the newest footage from various Marvel properties is showing he is receiving a full recovery from it, albeit a much slower recovery, which does suggest just how grievous the wound really was. We also see here in his battle with Abomination, he receives a puncture into his upper pectoral, which later on is actually shown to have scarred. Awesome touch by the filmmakers, by the way. Meaning that he made a full recovery, but there's still signs of the injury there. But the kind of injuries that he's coming back from on the regular are just insane. If you or I would receive those injuries, we would be that guy. So we'll be able to give him 5.5 points for having high-level superhuman healing. When it comes to Thanos, his issue is not so much that he recovers really well from one fight to the next. It has more to do with the fact that he didn't seem to actually get hurt from one fight to the next. That being said, he still has a remarkable recovery time, as can be seen here when he receives his small cut from Tony Stark. By the time he shows up in Wakanda, he's recovered. Now, part of that could be the stones, so we don't want to give too much credit where credit isn't due, but it's still safe to say that he can have 5 points for having superhuman healing. In the MCU, neither the Incredible Hulk nor Thanos have a high level of mind control, though Thanos in the comics had quite a bit. It's safe to say the Incredible Hulk can read his enemies' moves. That's pretty apparent in his various fights as he takes the time and reacts to what his opponents are doing. Now, he does have a tendency to be a bit more reactive, but there are occasions where you can see he's reading the room and seeing what's happening and then responding accordingly. So the Hulk will get 1 point for being able to read his enemies' moves. Thanos, on the other hand, seems to be able to predict his enemies' moves. He's always a step ahead of everyone else. As seen later in his fight against the other Avengers on Titan, he's really good at reading patterns and making predictions about what his opponents are going to do next, though he doesn't indicate any ability to read his enemies' thoughts. So we'll be able to score him 2 points for being able to predict his enemies' moves. Magical knowledge is where this fight starts getting tricky. Incredible Hulk is regularly interacting with people that have advanced technology, or in many cases are manipulating magical forces. So it's easy enough to give him 1.5 points for having magical familiarity. Thanos, on the other hand, has a gauntlet on his hand containing a Power Stone. The Power Stone in and of itself is demonstrated to be able to project energy blasts, increase the user's actual physical strength, as well as cause massive shock waves, as well as reach moons. It's kind of unclear what all it can do. And it's safe to categorize these stones as magical items for the simple fact that there's no scientific explanation for how they work, or why they seem to respond to the will of the person wielding them. The problem is, in this fight, he never actually uses it. So while it's safe to say that he has a high magical literacy as he's wandering around trying to find these stones, knows where most of them are gathering them for his own personal use, he's not actually full on using magical items. Normally he would get 3 points for being able to use magical items, but I struggle to give him a full 3 points when he isn't actually using it. So you could give him 2.5 points for having a high magical literacy. I struggle to give him that, though, when he does have the Infinity Stone with him, meaning that at a moment's notice, if this fight goes badly, he can use it. So we're going to meet in the middle and give him 2.75 points for having a high magical literacy and access to the magical items. When it comes to kill response, as much as everyone wants to say that the Hulk is a mindless monster who will kill without hesitation, that's not truly accurate. More often than not, he would just as soon have anyone just leave him alone. And especially during this fight, he's at a stage in his development where he has definitely shown a softer side, as well as a very controlled side. That being said, though, he is definitely trying to kill Thanos here, as can be demonstrated in the severe chokehold that he puts him under. Considering the number of friends the Hulk has recently lost, as well as how big a threat Thanos is in this given moment, it's no wonder that he's actually actively trying to kill him. He's really putting the squeeze on him and therefore will squeeze out 6 points in this area. Thanos, on the other hand, is being a little bit more casual. While he does seem to have every intent of killing a lot of people on this ship, he seems to be going through his whole thing where he's only killing half, though he would probably not let someone as dangerous as the Hulk live. It's hard to say. He's made strange decisions in the past.
Stop! Spare his life, and I will give you the stone.
No tricks.
He's also not being particularly cruel in this fight, but it seems that he is fighting to win at all costs. And that seems to be in keeping with his character. Whatever the cost, he'll pay it to win, which will give him 4 points for his kill response. When it comes to unique abilities being thrown into this fight, it's hard to say that the Hulk is throwing anything at Thanos he hasn't seen before. Thanos has certainly experienced fighting very physically strong opponents. Near as we can tell, he just recently got into a fight with Thor, who seems to be as strong, if not stronger, than the Hulk. The debate rages on. The Hulk, of course, does seem to have increasable strength, though, so that's kind of a unique thing to throw at him. So he'll get 1 point for having some unique advantages. On the other end, the Hulk is not particularly practiced at fighting things as strong as he is. Almost everything he gets his hands on, he rips to shreds. In fact, the Abomination and Thor are about the only things that we know of that the Hulk has ever faced that are as strong as he is. And he's shown that in certain circumstances, he has the ability to overpower both of those opponents.
That's how it feels!
I'm just a huge fan of the sport.
Thanos, on the other hand, is someone that seems to be as strong, or as we've indicated already, stronger than the Hulk. That is not something he's accustomed to. And also, we cannot forget that despite the fact that he isn't using the Power Stone, Thanos has the Power Stone, which gives him some very dangerous advantages in this fight. So he's going to get a full 5 points for having some very dangerous advantages. When it comes to fighting prowess, you can actually see a progression with the Incredible Hulk. In some of his earliest encounters, he fights because his life depends on it. Later on, he shows himself to be a bit of a scrapper, not having a lot of technical skill. By the time we get to the end of Age of Ultron, he is an experienced scrapper. By the time we see him at the end of Ragnarok, it seems like that guy's gotten a little training. Or at the very least, he's gotten enough experience to be considered a trained fighter. So that's why we're going to give him 2 points in this category. When it comes to fighting prowess, it's best demonstrated in this video by Godzilla Rex. He breaks down all of Thanos' fighting styles, as well as a lot of other characters. You really ought to check them out. They're a really cool series. In that, he demonstrates that Thanos is actually skilled at up to 6 different fighting styles, a lot of which can be demonstrated right here in his fight with the Hulk. He is definitely showing the technique of a trained fighter, and he's showing the quickness and response time of someone who is an experienced trained fighter. Could we go so far as to call him an expert? Not so much. He takes his fair share of licks. Part of that could be him just relying on his physique. Part of it could be that he's actually engaging with people who are technically better fighters than him. But I think it's still fair to give him a full 3 points for being a highly trained fighter. Invulnerability, that's something the Incredible Hulk has no lack of. The best demonstration of this is not actually from a blow that he received, but actually a blow that he gave, which is right here when he punches this Chitauri worm dragon thing. Comic Books vs. the World in that same strength video for the Hulk indicated the kind of impact force that he was delivering in order to perform this feat. Now here's the thing about physics, if he's delivering that force, he's also receiving force. And how much force? Essentially enough to stop a battleship, which means he's at the very least super invulnerable, able to withstand a train impact. Now, is he quite limitless? Could he take a nuke at its apex? We don't know. None of the force that's ever delivered to him is indicated to be that high, so we have no real way of knowing. But we do know that he could take the train impact, and we know that he could do it over and over and over again. We feel safe giving him higher than usual super invulnerability with 6.5 points. Thanos seems to be taking the exact same beating, the biggest indication being that he is taking hits from the Hulk. Does he get hit as hard as the Hulk hit that worm? I don't know. That's hard to say. We do know that he's physically sent sailing. And we also know that Iron Man was able to make him bleed, whereas even in the Hulkbuster armor, he wasn't able to make the Hulk bleed. In fact, at the end of the fight with Thanos, Hulk still isn't bleeding. So it's safe to say that Thanos is in that class of being able to withstand a train impact, but he's not quite as solid as the Hulk himself. So we'll safely give him 6 points for his invulnerability. Alright, time for the bonus round. In this case, the bonus round is pretty simple. When it comes to experience, well, we've already talked about Thanos' age. That alone would have given him the experience boost. Plus, it's clear that despite the many fights that Hulk's been in, Thanos has been in quite a bit more. So he'll get the extra 2 points for the experience bonus. Neither one of them is really using weapons in this case, unless of course you consider the gauntlet as a blunt instrument, although the Hulk's pretty accustomed to getting hit by metal. Not sure that it could count. In this case, we're not going to. Both of them are actually utilizing extra normal powers more so than what the average person seems to be able to wield. And that seems to be true no matter what planet Thanos is on. There always seems to be average people. Humans are kind of abundant in the galaxy, it would seem. So both of them will get docked 2 points for having to contend with the enemy's powers. Neither one of them brings anything to the table that's uniquely a weakness to the other, so that's going to be negated here as well. Alright, at the end of the day, the meter's going to give a score of 4.43 to Thanos and a score of 3.47 to the Incredible Hulk. That means that there's a 78% likelihood that Thanos wins this fight. Had he actually been using the Power Stone, it would have been considerably higher. That means that the Hulk had a 22% chance of coming back and winning. So there was a chance there the Hulk could have won. How could that have been? Maybe if the fight had gone on long enough to allow his rage to build up and his strength to grow even more. Unfortunately, that's not what we saw happen. We saw the Hulk get defeated in 46 seconds, and based on the results here, I'm not actually surprised. So when it comes to Thanos versus the Avengers, round 1 goes to Thanos. Thanks everyone for checking this out. We're going to be doing the rest of the encounters of Thanos versus the rest of the Avengers as these battles progress and go on through the movies, and we'll see how they break down and make sure that they were all legit. If you have any other battles that we want to look at and see if they're actually legit or not, by all means, put those comments down below. Also, if you have a fantasy fight that you want to see, just X person versus Y person, I'm more than glad to run those as well for you. So throw any of those suggestions down in the comments and keep fighting the good fight.